Chapter 1 Kataneonidh. The market was quiet early today. I woke before the daily influx of shoppers to keep watch on the borders. This week has been fraught with unusual weather, with clouds frowning furiously and darkly at the horizons. A buzz pulls at my skin and hair when I step out. I am sure the warrior monks must have caught the rumors in the market already. No doubt they will come rasping at my door soon enough, knocking obnoxiously to deliver another wax-sealed order from the emperor. No doubt they too have realized this weather is the death throes of the storm dragon. Before taking flight towards the borders, I paused at the familiar canopied stall with fruit baskets strewn in front onto the street. Behind me, across the road, I heard the iconic whirring of singing stone spice, arrayed on a table in jars from lowest to highest pitch, sweetest to sourest. Merchants, recognizable by their long guild robes, bustled past under the strings of lamps that lit the wide tiled road. Eyeing the day's batch of fireberries, I admired their rich, translucent luster and hefty size, like the million eyes of the night sky. Then I hailed the boy at the table, and he produced from a woven basket a small bowl constructed from the inverse of a roof shingle. This he began to fill with berries. "Mero, vaduneshi selch," I hailed him, calling him little friend in Ithranim. "How goes the orchard expansion?" "Sir," exclaimed he, evacuating the vibrant grass-green contents of a leather flask in quick rows across the mound of berries. "It's progressing on time. Grandpa says we should have twice as much fruit once the first saplings mature. Since it's locally grown, this should cost less than imports from the outlying islands." "How exciting," I responded, greedily imagining the mountains of fruit I could enjoy in a few seasons. The boy handed me the shingle on which he had deposited a heap of obsidian, red-cored fireberries, across which dripped strips of green nectar. Feeling the smooth texture, smallness, rounded edges, and midline ridge of the shingle in my hands, it reminded me immediately of the young ocean dragon I had hunted last month. "Did you know?" the boy went on. "I asked Grandpa what I could be when I'm your age, and he told me I could do what my heart desires. So I told him, I want to be a knight just like you. And he told me I could." I was not surprised to hear the strength of his conviction. He had been toying with my wooden training sword from the academy for years now. "Do you think I can do it?" "Of course you can do it," I encouraged him. "It requires only one thing. Work hard. As long as you are certain not to give up on what truly matters, you will find your way." "I really want to be a dragon hunter," he emphasized. My heart sank, but I was sure not to show this. "They're the bravest of all the knights in the Empire," he went on, "with their anchor hooks and harpoons and scale-coated swords, dragon boating across the skies. Maybe one day I'll even be a captain and lead a squadron. We'll take down the heart of dragondom, and then I could even meet the Emperor, and he'll give me a suit of armor and the captain's spear." I kept on nonchalantly at my berries. He must have been listening to the Audacity, the Emperor's religious advisor and a known warmonger. The sweetness of the desert shroom nectar coated my throat against the bitter prospect of war. I was no blind adherent of the Emperor, but at the least I could appreciate his hesitance towards war. If there were to be war, I would be the vanguard. "But, sir," the boy addressed me in between his daydreams, "how is it that you have no squadron, nor ship, nor dragon hunter's gear? Why do you not have companions when you hunt? All the others go in crews." I threw the last berry into my mouth and returned the shingle to him. "Well, you see," I offered him tentatively, reluctant to elaborate further, "I simply do not need one." He paused with his hands stretched out towards the shingle, eyes glossy and sparkling as they grasped it. Eyes still set on me, he let the shingle tip over, and the glass coins I had left in place of my breakfast fare slipped out onto the table. This alerted him, upon which he finally attended to the coins and gathered them together. "Forest glass," I heard him mutter as I began to depart. "I see why the glassmakers were worried about the trade routes closing. Prices for desert goods have been rising ever since the Twin Dragons rampaged. Even desert fruit nectar was inflated today." I was already walking off when he called after me. "Sir, we citizens thank you for protecting the capital." At this, he placed his right fist downward onto the flat of his left palm, and then, sliding it off the tips of his left fingers, opened his right palm underneath the left. Then he raised both crossed hands before his chest with a bow. This ritual I repeated to him, but beginning with the left hand on top, as a recipient of the gesture. What he had gestured was the foundation of the chivalric etiquette owed to all superiors and nobility. Maturity and stability, the fist. Gratitude and goodwill, the gesture outward. Balance and concord, the united hands. Justice, the promise over the heart. Of course, I was no superior of his, but his eagerness to serve the Emperor had never stricken me as mere fancy, so I taught him what they taught me. For 10 years now I have been visiting that boy's table, ever since I was given my title and leisure beyond the academy confines. I was still in training when he was born, and I remember when his mother perished in the attack on the orchards at the outskirts of the island. It was also the day I met the second Countess. There is more to dragon hunting than barbarism and violence. The work is technical, precise, even artistic. Always it begins with a quiet flight, a patrol for information, such as today's. This morning I am merely chasing storms around the borders of the capital island. If the storm dragon is near, he will bring lightning, thunder, hail, and rain. Far away in the north, I can see a heavy gray horizon. Reports of his sickness have been circling the Academy's information networks for weeks. He will have but days before the blight consumes his mind entirely, at which point he will reduce to mere hunger and come to feed on the conscious. Then I intervene. In this direction, towards the north and east, lie the great falls of Yuvwin Island, and the bubbling reefs of coral islands, prominent in the archipelago. The empire expands generously in this direction, where the sky is temperate and the broken cirrus clouds dominate in splotches. I suspect the storm dragon prefers the warm dampness of the water islands to the wastes of the cold salt desert in the south and the mountain karsts of the wind rivers in the west. It is for this reason I have been keeping my eye north set from the walls this week. Well, and there! Northeast indeed was a black speck, boring a hole through the sky. Immediately, I secured my 4 belts, tucking their straps under each other. With an anticipatory breath, I dove off the wall in a swoop over the vineyards and fields that hugged the capital. Skimming the tips of ashen purple wheat, besides rows and columns of fruit vines, I thrust out my arms to the side. My fingers unraveled into webbed strands, like a thread drawn into a tapestry. A great bird manifested in my shadow. Where my armor had been, now I could feel the raw draft of wind parting against the cutting edge of my arms. Vortices of air that pulled in the occasional leaf or insect swirled in my wake. The sky from up here was sharp and clean, gently purifying, like a plink of liquid silver that ripples the surface of a star-mirrored lake and then is still. Having crossed the wheat fields and vineyards, now at some distance from the capital island, I reared up into a hover. Behind me, the jagged island edge peered its head up here, bowed down there, and lorded over the infinite cloud sea leagues below. I had been expecting activity in the north, but that dark speck I had spotted from the wall had now become 100 tiny, growing orbs. These could not be a dragon. At length, as I made towards the northeast, the electric static in the air alerted me immediately to what it was. A swarm of winged, long-bodied bugfish from the reefs of Coral Island had come, buzzing and rustling the air for leagues around. The white fur that tipped my wings stood on end. My spine twitched. They had reached my airspace now. I held my breath. A billion wings twice my own length flooded the air with a purring, low drone as they passed me in droves. My excitement belied a certain envy. How organically they flew! In their iridescent translucence, their wings cast rainbows of light and streaks like paint across my face. Bodies rotund and snaky, the grown females sported blue and black stripes down their lengths. The smaller males wore yellow and black coats. Sets of jointed legs balanced like hooks under their light-toned bellies. I laughed euphorically aloud in appreciation. These were the grand beeeels, deadly to the touch, as a salted mucus on their skin conducts lightning. Through this, they sense the muscle stirrings of nearby creatures, a sort of lightning vision as they are nearly blind. These mating swarms can be dangerous for our way of subsistence in the capital, given our expanses of field and forest. In the midst of a thundershower, sometimes one will draw too near, take on the full force of a lightning strike, and fall stunned from the sky, bringing lightning and heat with it. When this happens above the agricultural fields and outskirt villages, fire ravages the landscape for leagues. Thankfully, this is rare, and it requires an unusually strong storm to settle over the island. Nothing else entices them out of their reefs in Coral Island. Admiring the play of light and the ever-growing drone of wings, I peered left. A curious youth who was just developing his colors eyed me. For a moment, the drone drowned out, and his eyes set upon me like a judge's upon a convict. And then he made straight towards me in a flying slither. Instantly, I wrapped my wings about me and dove. Speeding downward, I twisted away in an uncontrolled spin from the gulp that was open below. No, there were 2 jaws. 3 staggered like steps into his throat, guiding the unsuspecting to their doom. His teeth clashed together as he snapped, like the resonant peal of a fighting blade. As big as the great swords in the armory, as loud as the bells in the capital spires at noon. My boots barely skinned one of his protruding teeth. Youth though he was already twice my length, with wings as long as me. I hoped I was too small to interest him in chasing, and kept on downward. Flipping over onto my back, I watched as his lighter underside obscured the sky, eclipsing the sun in the highest cirrus layer. The sunlessness chilled my wings and face. In the incredible weight of his passing, I was tugged like a hail seed towards his tapering tail. Fortunately, I pressed on towards the bottom of the sky even as I was drawn back. This, I suspect, saved me in the end, and once clear, I turned about again to hover and admire the great swarm that had passed. Their wings beat in unison as the angle of the sun cast rainbow spotlights across the cloud layers. An orchestra rose from their snaking progression through the air. What a thrill! At first they had seemed so distant, but within mere seconds they had reached me. Now they were receding into the distance just as fast, the whole matter wrapped up into a blink. I hovered a while to recover my nerves. Still my wings tingled, infused with adrenaline from and awe of the great flyers of Aethra. These great flyers carry an inexplicable majesty that one can never sufficiently admire. If I could but count myself amongst them, go flying amongst the bugfish, the laughing bubbles, waterfall climbers, and groaning reefs of the wet north, sleep under the phosphorescent salt spires, glassy umbrella mushrooms, and fluttering auroras of the fiery salt desert south, trek through the golden meteor storms, whispering petal showers, and the color-streaked wind rivers of the west. These things of Aethra, natural and free, beckon to my spirit, which yearns so for the world. The boundary between envy and awe blurred to me in that moment. I must have hovered for minutes on end, trying in vain to behold the immensity of Aether's complexity in a thought. Only when the wind had chilled away the heat from my chase earlier did I bother to stir. And it occurred to me, if there were beeeels here, where was the storm to draw them away from Coral Island? What did I miss this morning? What did I miss?